Welcome back to the Microslop Chronicles. I'm Olive Badger. So excited to have you here for another episode. Quick note for the new folks. This show isn't named after Microsoft specifically. It's named after what I'm viewing as a pattern of behavior that shows up across the entire industry right now. And I say this every episode because I do genuinely mean it. I don't hate AI. Okay, it is stupid to just hate an entire technology. This is more about how corporations are doing really bad things with AI, like cutting corners, avoiding accountability, powerful tools with unfettered access, and then, I don't know, just shrugging when it goes wrong. So for this episode, we're going to be talking about Clawdbot, because of course we're going to be talking about Clawdbot. Before we get into the Clawdbot story specifically, I need to set the stage here with the announcement that dominated financial news this week because it connects directly to everything that follows. So, on February 21st, Anthropic released a tool called Claude Security, an AI-powered vulnerability scanner that reasoned through codebases the way a human security researcher would, and then suggests patches with at least human approval required before anything changes, so at least that's good. During testing with Claude Opus 4.6, their team found over 500 high-security vulnerabilities in actively maintained open source code, bugs that had been hiding for decades despite years of expert review. And that part is genuinely impressive. That is a good thing, but within hours of the announcement, cybersecurity stocks collapsed. CrowdStrike, oh no, fell around 8%, not CrowdStrike. Zscaler dropped over 10%, Cloudflare shed more than 9%, the Global X Cybersecurity ETF hit its lowest close since November of 2023. Billions of dollars gone over a weekend, oh no. The market panic is probably overblown. I mean, CrowdStrike CEO did correctly point out that scanning source code doesn't replace runtime threat detection on live systems, and Bank of America analysts agreed the real threat is mainly to dedicated code scanning platforms, not the whole security stack. But the concern underneath the panic is legitimate. Anthropic said it themselves in their announcement, saying the same capabilities that help defenders find vulnerabilities could help attackers exploit them. And that's exactly where Clawdbot comes to play here, because this week that dual-use concern stopped being theoretical. On February 25th, 2026, Bloomberg reported that Israeli cybersecurity firm Gambit Security documented an unidentified hacker used Anthropic's Claude to orchestrate a sustained attack campaign against Mexican government agencies between December 2025 and January 2026. Here's the methodology because it matters. The attacker wrote Spanish language prompts instructing Claude to roleplay as an elite hacker. The goal was to find vulnerabilities in government networks, write exploitation scripts, and automate. Claude did what Claude is trained to do, right? Warned the user about malicious intent and said no. But the attacker didn't stop because the attacker is smarter than the AI bot. The attacker rephrased, reframed, kept asking and poking, and eventually Claude complied. Once it was on board, it occasionally resisted further requests and then executed thousands of commands on government networks across multiple agencies. The haul was 150 gigabytes, 195 million taxpayer records with voter data from Mexico's National Electoral Institute, government employee credentials, civil registry files, federal agencies with 4 state governments, regional water utility. Anthropic confirmed the incident to banned the accounts and says it's enhanced its models with better misuse detection. I mean, that's, I guess, the right response. It deserves to somewhat be acknowledged, but here's what Gambit's researchers noted that I think is the actual headliner. The bigger picture isn't really about Claude specifically, it's about what this confirms. The barrier to entry for sophisticated cyber attacks just dropped dramatically. Legacy government systems are already struggling with conventional threats and are now being probed by people whose main skill is knowing how to phrase a question and are stubborn enough to poke an AI long enough. Now let me stay with the Mexico story for one more beat because the mechanism deserves its own discussion. I said Claude said no, the hacker kept asking, and then Claude said yes. That is doing a lot of work in that sentence, and it points to a design tension at the heart of every conversational AI that I don't think gets enough mainstream coverage. These models are built at a fundamental level to be helpful, to find a way to assist. That's the product. But then we look at the dark side to that orientation, because when it comes to safety guardrails and AI optimized to be helpful, like one that can be worn down through persistent rephrasing, has safety mechanisms that are fundamentally probabilistic rather than absolute. Like you don't always get a hard no. Sometimes you even get like a not yet. Like, anyone have some concerns about Asimov's laws of robotics for the moment? One observer summarized it perfectly, saying that Claude violates AI safety guidelines, and then the hacker just kept asking, and then Claude helped hack the entire government. That's not even a hypothetical. It happened, right? Researchers have been documenting jailbreak methodologies across every major model for years, and the issue is that these models get more capable, the consequences of successful jailbreak get more severe, and when the worst Claude can do is write edgy, creative writing, and jailbreak was an annoyance, when like Claude can write and execute exploitation scripts against government infrastructure, jailbreak is a national incident. And the question every lab needs to be asking is not just, can we improve the model's resistance, but what is the architecture of safety that doesn't depend entirely on the model's ability to hold its position under sustained conversational pressure? Because right now the architecture clearly isn't there. All right, so let's step back from geopolitical stuff for a moment and talk about something closer to home. For anyone who has ever clicked through a permission prompt without reading it all the way, all of us, right? In January, developer James McCauley was running a benchmark test pitting Claude Coworker, Anthropic's agentic desktop agent, against Claude Code in a head-to-head folder task. Both tools got more or less the same instruction: organize local directories. Cowork triggered a fatal error and deleted approximately 11 gigabytes of files. Not moved to trash, not archived somewhere recoverable, deleted, using the Unix rm-rf command. For the non-terminal folks, that's the point of no return for file deletion. No trash can, no undo, poof, gone. Here's what makes this Microslop Chronicles story. McCauley had previously granted Cowork broad permissions through allow all prompts, which is the designed workflow. That button exists specifically to reduce friction, and he had given explicit instructions to retain user data folders, do not delete, and Cowork's internal task list still marked delete user data folder completed. It read the instructions, made a decision. The decision was catastrophically wrong, and there was no confirmation prompt, no "are you sure?", no friction between the AI's decisions and the irreversible loss of 11 gigabytes of someone's own data. McCauley asked Claude Code afterward if recovery was possible, and the answer was a hard and fast no. This isn't user is dumb. McCauley is a developer who understood what he was doing. He clicked allow all because that's the designed workflow. The allow all button is a product design, and it's a product design, unfortunately, with no safety net underneath it. Agentic AI tools that do things rather than just respond to questions, while very powerful, require a completely different permission mental model than anything that came before. You are not giving an AI permission to suggest an action. You are giving it permission to execute an action irreversibly at machine speed. That distinction, I think, needs to be a lot more visible in this product than it currently is, or for developers out there wanting to try agentic coding. You need to do a lot more research up front before you start working with these tools, just saying. All right, next up, this one did make me want to record this episode immediately, walk through this carefully with me because the mechanism matters. Their security firm, Layer X, published a research earlier this month documenting a zero-click remote code extension vulnerability in Claude Desktop extensions. They assigned it a CVSS security score of 10 out of 10, which is maximum severity. It affects over 10,000 active users and more than 50 extensions. Here's how the attack works. So Claude Desktop extensions, unlike browser extensions in Chrome or Firefox, which run inside sandbox environments, execute with full system privileges on your computer. No isolation, no restrictions. If a Claude Desktop extension runs a command, it runs with the same permissions as you, the logged in user. It can read your files, access stored credentials, modify system settings, and execute arbitrary code. The MCP framework lets Claude autonomously chain together multiple tools to fulfill a request. That's the feature. That's what makes it powerful. The problem is there's no security boundary between where data comes from and what tools Claude executes with it. Claude will take input from a low-trust source, like your Google Calendar, and route it straight into a high-privilege local executor without any checkpoint. So here's the attack. An attacker sends you a Google Calendar invite. Hidden in the event description is a malicious instruction. You ask Claude to check your calendar. Claude reads the event, processes the embedded instructions, invokes a local extension with execution privileges, downloads the attacker's code, and runs it. No confirmation prompt, no warning, no visible sign that anything has happened. You asked about your schedule. Your system is now fully compromised. Layer X calls this a workflow failure, not a traditional software bug, but a failure in the AI's decision-making logic. Claude is designed to be helpful and autonomous. It chains tools together to solve problems. It just lacks contextual awareness to understand that data from a public calendar should never be piped into something that can execute shell commands on your machine. Luckily, Layer X did report it to Anthropic, and then Anthropic declined to fix it. Do with that what you will. And I want Anthropic's exact response up on the screen here because you got it. You just got to read it yourself. It says, Claude Desktop's MCP integration is designed as a local development tool that operates within the user's own environment. Users explicitly configure and grant permissions to MCP servers they choose to run locally, and these servers have access to resources based on the user's permissions. We recommend that users exercise the same caution when installing MCP servers as they do when installing third-party software, and separately, that the vulnerability falls outside our current threat model. Now let's be precise about what that response is doing, because it's doing some heavy lifting here. Over 10,000 people installed these extensions. More than 50 extensions are affected. An independent security firm assigned a severity score, and Anthropic's answer is the user should have known better. I mean, that is the same logic every tech company reaches for when they want to shift responsibility from their architectural decisions onto the people using their products, especially if they're trying so hard to force adoption. Like, what are they doing? Placing the burden of understanding a novel attack surface when that professional security researchers are still actively mapping onto regular people that they are crying and begging to adopt their services. They're told that installing a productivity extension from a trusted marketplace is somehow their fault. Like, there are real trade-offs here. Restricting MCP's tool chaining autonomy enough to close this attack vector would reduce the tool's utility, and that is genuine tension, but we made the architectural choice that enables this, and therefore it's the user's problem, is a hard position to defend from a company that markets itself as one of the most safety-focused AI labs in the world. And again, everyone is saying we have to adapt AI or AI is going to die, and then they're not taking these concerns seriously. I mean, it's especially hard to square with the fact that this company patched a different Claude CVE correctly just weeks earlier. It does actually bring me to some good news. In January, CVE 2026-21852 was published, documenting a vulnerability in Claude code versions before 2.0.65, opening Claude code inside an attacker-controlled repository to transmit your Anthropic API keys before the trust confirmation prompt appeared. Ooh, classic trust before confirmation flaw. You were asked to approve something after the credentials were already gone. It's like coding 101. I mean, this was patched and eventually fixed, so at least that's good. But I'm not here to say Anthropic never does anything right, but I mean, this is some inconsistency. Like, the two responses to me belong to the same company in the same month, and that there's some gap in their story. But if you're using Claude Code and haven't updated, go do that now. Make sure you're on version 2.0.65 or later, I guess. One more Clawdbot story for you, particularly important for anyone working in or around business environments, because when Anthropic released Claude Cowork in January, security analysis started raising alarms almost immediately about something they're calling shadow MCP. Traditional shadow IT is employees using unauthorized tools to access company data. IT doesn't know, can't monitor it, can't manage the risk, and shadow MCP is that problem at a different scale. With Claude Coworker, the similar agentic tools, Claude isn't just reading what you paste into a chat window, it's directly connected to your business systems, querying HubSpot, writing to databases, modifying Google Drive files, all autonomously, all potentially without any IT visibility. IT nightmare here. I would hate to be an IT admin trying to manage some of this stuff. Security firm Prompt Armor published a proof of concept showing that Cowork could be manipulated through indirect prompt injection to steal user files and upload them to an attacker's Anthropic account. No external hacker required. An employee just drops the document into a folder Claude has access to, and that document contains a hidden prompt. Claude reads it, executes the embedded instructions, and exfiltrates the data. And the employee never knows it. And this isn't theoretical. It's been demonstrated, and based on what security researchers are seeing, most organizations adopting these tools haven't built governance structures to manage it. No policies, no audit trails, no visibility. That's the allow all problem at enterprise scales here. All right, we did cover some patterns across the industry today. Powerful tools deployed with unfettered access and government structures that haven't kept pace, and consequences landing on users who had no real way to protect themselves. So whether it's a hacker wearing down guardrails through persistence, a developer whose files got deleted because allow all means exactly that, or 10,000 people sitting on an unpatched exploit because the company decided it falls outside their threat model, I kind of feel like it's all the same root problem here today. So if you liked this video, I know it's a little bit calmer for a Microslop Chronicles video, but do feel free to hit that like button. And if you like AI news, calling out the AI industry, learning more about technology, or even a little bit of gaming, I'd love to have you here. So please hit that subscribe button. But if you don't, I don't know, guys, I might be forced to banish you to the Shadow Realm.
Much better.
Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have the most fantastic rest of your day, and peace out. Bye.